The morning sun barely peeked through the heavy curtains of the Victorian mansion when Catherine heard the news. She sat at her mahogany desk, her trembling hands holding the letter that would change everything. Her father, the patriarch of the Wellington family, had passed away during the night. Catherine stared at the elegant handwriting of the family lawyer. The words blurred as tears filled her eyes. She had known this day would come, but nothing could have prepared her for the crushing weight of grief that now pressed upon her chest. The house felt different already. The grandfather clock in the hallway ticked louder than usual, each second echoing through the empty corridors. Catherine remembered how her father would wind that clock every Sunday morning, humming old melodies while she watched from the staircase as a child. She walked slowly to her father's study, her silk dress rustling against the polished floors. The room still smelled of his pipe tobacco and leather-bound books. His reading glasses lay on the desk, right where he had left them the previous evening. Catherine picked them up gently, as if they might break at her touch. The memories flooded back. Her father teaching her to ride horses in the vast estate grounds. The way he would lift her onto his shoulders during summer festivals. His proud smile when she graduated from university. The arguments they had when she wanted to pursue art instead of joining the family business. Even their disagreements were precious now. Catherine knew she had to tell the others. Her younger brother James was traveling in Scotland. Her mother had been staying at their countryside cottage, trying to find peace after the diagnosis. And then there was Camilla, her older sister, who had not spoken to their father in 5 years. The rift between Camilla and their father had torn the family apart. It started with a business decision that went wrong. Camilla had wanted to modernize the family's textile empire, bring it into the 21st century with new ideas and bold investments. Their father, traditional and cautious, had refused. The argument that followed was explosive. Words were said that could never be taken back. Catherine had tried to play peacemaker, but both were too stubborn. Camilla left for London, starting her own company from scratch. She sent Christmas cards but never visited. Their father would ask about her sometimes, his voice soft with regret, but his pride prevented him from reaching out. Now it was too late. Catherine's phone buzzed. It was a message from the hospital. They needed someone to come and handle the arrangements. She grabbed her coat, pausing at the mirror in the hallway. Her reflection looked older somehow, as if grief had aged her overnight. The drive to the hospital was a blur. The radio played cheerful morning songs that felt wrong against the heaviness in her heart. She turned it off, preferring the silence. The city was waking up, people rushing to work, living their normal lives while hers had just shattered. At the hospital, the staff was kind but efficient. Papers to sign, decisions to make. Catherine moved through it all in a daze. They asked if she wanted to see him one more time. She nodded, not trusting her voice. He looked peaceful, almost like he was sleeping. The lines of worry that had creased his forehead in recent months were gone. Catherine took his cold hand in hers, remembering how these same hands had taught her to paint, had applauded at her school plays, had wiped away her tears when her first boyfriend broke her heart. "I'm sorry, Papa," she whispered. "I'm sorry we didn't have more time." She thought about all the conversations they would never have, the grandchildren he would never meet, the family reconciliation that would never happen. The weight of these lost futures pressed down on her. Back at the mansion, Catherine found herself in the kitchen, making tea with mechanical movements. The housekeeper, Mrs. Morrison, who had been with the family for 30 years, was crying quietly in the corner. Even the old woman who had seen everything was not prepared for this loss. Catherine's phone rang. It was James, his voice thick with emotion from across the miles. She told him what had happened, heard his sharp intake of breath, the silence that followed. They cried together, connected by invisible threads of shared grief across the distance. "What about Camilla?" James asked finally. Catherine had been dreading this. "I'll call her." But Camilla's phone went straight to voicemail. Catherine left a message, her voice breaking. "Camilla, it's me. Papa died last night. Please call me back. Please come home." The hours passed slowly. Catherine busied herself with the endless tasks that death brings, choosing flowers for the funeral, writing the obituary, calling relatives. Each task was a small weight added to her shoulders. As evening fell, she sat in her father's chair, wrapped in one of his old cardigans. It still smelled like him. She closed her eyes and could almost pretend he was just in the next room, about to walk in and ask if she wanted to play chess. The doorbell rang, sharp and sudden in the quiet house. Catherine's heart leaped. Could it be Camilla? But it was only the family lawyer, Mr. Pemberton, his face grave. "Miss Catherine, I'm so sorry for your loss. There are matters we need to discuss regarding your father's will." Catherine nodded, leading him to the study. She wasn't ready for this, but life doesn't wait for you to be ready. "Your father made some changes recently," Mr. Pemberton said, adjusting his glasses. "Changes that might cause some complications." Catherine felt a chill run down her spine. What kind of complications? The lawyer opened his briefcase, pulling out a thick document. "It concerns the distribution of the estate and the family business. Your father was very specific about his wishes." As Catherine began to read, her eyes widened. The will was not what anyone would expect. Her father, even in death, had made a decision that would shake the family to its core. Outside, storm clouds gathered, and the first drops of rain began to fall against the windows. The weather seemed to mirror the tempest that was about to descend upon the Wellington family. 3 days had passed since Catherine left that voicemail. 3 days of silence from Camilla that spoke louder than any words could. The funeral was tomorrow, and still there was no sign of the eldest Wellington daughter. Catherine stood in the flower shop, surrounded by lilies and roses, trying to choose arrangements while her mind wandered. The florist, a kind elderly woman, patted her hand gently. Everyone in their small town knew the Wellingtons, knew about the family rift, knew about the loss. Her phone finally rang. The name on the screen made her heart skip. Camilla. "How dare he?" were the first words out of Camilla's mouth. Not hello, not condolences, just raw anger cutting through the phone line. Catherine stepped outside the shop, rain misting her face. "Camilla, where are you?" "I'm at the train station. I just spoke to Pemberton. Did you know about the will?" Catherine's stomach dropped. News traveled fast, especially when lawyers were involved. "I only found out after. He left me nothing. Nothing, Catherine. Not even Mother's jewelry that was promised to me since I was 5. The pain in Camilla's voice was sharp enough to cut. Catherine pressed her free hand against her forehead, feeling a headache building. "That's not exactly true. He left you a letter. He left me a letter and conditions. I have to publicly apologize for abandoning the family. I have to work in the company for 5 years before I can claim my inheritance. He's trying to control me even from the grave." A black car pulled up to the curb. Camilla stepped out, and Catherine gasped. Her sister looked different. Harder. The soft curves of her face had sharpened, her warm brown eyes now cold as winter steel. Success had changed her, or perhaps it was the years of anger that had done it. They stood facing each other in the rain. Two sisters separated by more than just physical distance. Camilla's designer suit was getting wet, but she didn't seem to care. Her jaw was set in that stubborn line Catherine remembered from childhood. "He was sick, Camilla. The last year changed him. He had regrets." "Regrets?" Camilla laughed, but there was no humor in it. "He had 5 years to pick up the phone, 5 years to say he was wrong. Instead, he chose this. Manipulation from beyond the grave." Catherine reached for her sister, but Camilla stepped back. "Don't. I'm here for Mother, not for him, and certainly not for his money." They walked to the house in silence. The mansion loomed before them, gray and imposing in the rain. Camilla paused at the gate, her hand trembling slightly. Catherine realized this was the first time her sister had been home in 5 years. Inside, their mother sat in the parlor, a ghost of her former self. Grief had hollowed her out, left her fragile as bird bones. When she saw Camilla, something broke in her face. "My girl," she whispered, opening her arms. Camilla's mask cracked. She ran to their mother, folding into her embrace like she was a child again. They cried together while Catherine watched from the doorway, feeling like an outsider in her own family drama. James arrived an hour later, his face haggard from travel and grief. The family was together again, but it felt wrong, like a puzzle with pieces that no longer fit. They gathered in the dining room for dinner, the conversation stilted and careful. Mrs. Morrison served their father's favorite roast, but no one had much appetite. The empty chair at the head of the table seemed to grow larger with each passing moment. "We need to talk about tomorrow," Catherine said finally, breaking the suffocating silence. "The funeral," their mother said softly. "He wanted it simple, just family and close friends." "I'm not giving a eulogy," Camilla announced, her fork clattering against her plate. James looked up sharply. "Camilla, you're the eldest. It's tradition." "Tradition?" Camilla's voice rose. "Was it tradition when he froze me out? Was it tradition when he told me I was no longer his daughter if I walked out that door?" Their mother flinched. "He didn't mean it. You know how his temper was." "His temper cost us 5 years, Mother. 5 years I can't get back. And now he wants me to humiliate myself to claim what should have been mine by right." Catherine found the letter their father had left for Camilla in his study. Her hands shook as she brought it to the table. The envelope was thick, his handwriting careful on the front. "Maybe you should read this first," she suggested quietly. Camilla stared at the envelope like it might bite her. "I don't want his explanations." "Then don't read it for him," James said. "Read it for us. We're still here, Camilla. We still need you." The room fell silent except for the ticking of the grandfather clock. Camilla finally took the envelope, but she didn't open it. She tucked it into her purse with trembling fingers. The next morning came too quickly. The house filled with flowers and whispered condolences. Catherine helped their mother dress, choosing the black dress their father had bought her for their last anniversary. Every small task felt monumental. The church was packed. Their father had been a pillar of the community, and it showed. Business partners, employees, childhood friends all came to pay their respects. Catherine sat in the front pew, Camilla on one side, James on the other, their mother between them. The minister spoke about their father's life, his accomplishments, his dedication to family and community. Catherine heard the words but couldn't process them. Her mind kept drifting to memories, to moments that now felt precious beyond measure. When it came time for eulogies, James went first. He spoke about their father teaching him to fish, about business lessons and life advice. His voice cracked several times, but he pushed through. Catherine followed, sharing stories about her father's hidden soft side, his love of art that he rarely showed others, the way he would sneak her cookies before dinner when she was young. She saw people in the congregation smile through their tears. Then it was Camilla's turn. She sat frozen for a long moment. The church held its breath. Finally, she stood, walking to the podium with the unopened letter in her hand. "I wasn't going to speak today," she began, her voice steady despite the tears on her cheeks. "I'm angry. I've been angry for 5 years, but last night I read my father's letter." She unfolded the pages with shaking hands. "He wrote many things, but I want to share just a part." She cleared her throat. "My dearest Camilla, I have been a fool. Pride is a terrible master, and I let it rule me for too long. Every day you were gone, I wrote you a letter. I never sent them. They're in my desk drawer, hundreds of them. I was afraid you would reject them, reject me as I rejected you. I was wrong about the business, wrong about your dreams, wrong to let you walk away. You were right to fight for what you believed in. I see now that your strength comes from me, and I punished you for it. Please know that I love you, that I have always loved you, even when my actions said otherwise. The conditions in my will are not punishment, my dear one. They are my last foolish attempt to bring you home, to have you close to your mother and siblings. I know you don't need the money. Your success proved that. But I hope you might need your family, as I have needed you every day since you left. Forgive a stubborn old man who learned too late that being right is worth nothing if it costs you the people you love. Camilla's voice broke completely. She folded the letter, pressing it against her chest. The church was silent except for quiet sobs from the congregation. I'm angry, she repeated, but I'm here, and maybe that's enough for today. She returned to her seat and Catherine took her hand. For the first time in 5 years, Camilla didn't pull away. The burial was private, just family. They stood around the grave as rain began to fall again, soft and steady. Their mother threw the first handful of dirt, then James, then Catherine. Camilla stood back until the very end. When she finally stepped forward, she pulled something from her pocket, a small toy horse, worn and faded. You gave me this when I was 6, she whispered to the grave, when I was scared of the dark. You told me to be brave like the horses. I've carried it everywhere, even when I hated you. She dropped it gently onto the casket, then stepped back into Catherine's waiting embrace. Back at the house, people gathered for the reception. Camilla moved through the crowd like a ghost, accepting condolences with a fixed smile. Catherine watched her sister with growing concern. The anger was still there, simmering beneath the surface. As the afternoon wore on, Mr. Pemberton approached them. I hate to bring this up today, but there are pressing matters regarding the business. The board is meeting Monday morning. Camilla's eyes flashed. Let them meet. I have my own company to run. Camilla, their mother said softly, please, think about it. I have thought about it. For 5 years, I've thought about it. Camilla set down her teacup with careful precision. He chose the business over me once. I won't let him do it again, even in death. The week after the funeral passed in a strange blur. The house felt empty, despite being full of people. Relatives lingered, offering help that wasn't needed, bringing casseroles that went uneaten. Catherine found herself hiding in her father's study, surrounded by his things, trying to make sense of everything that had happened. She discovered the drawer Camilla had mentioned in his letter. Hundreds of unsent letters, each one dated, each one beginning with, "My dearest daughter." Catherine sat on the floor, reading them one by one, tears streaming down her face. Her father's pride had cost him so much, and he had known it. Camilla had returned to London the day after the funeral, but something had shifted. She called their mother every evening, short conversations that were stilted but present. It was more contact than they'd had in years. Monday morning arrived with unusual sunshine. Catherine dressed carefully for the board meeting, knowing that everything would change today. The family business employed hundreds of people. Decisions needed to be made. She was surprised to find Camilla in the boardroom, dressed in a sharp black suit, studying financial reports. Their eyes met across the polished table. You came, Catherine said softly. I'm not staying, Camilla replied, but her voice lacked its earlier edge. I just wanted to see what he built, what he protected so fiercely. The board members filed in. Men and women who had worked with their father for decades. They looked at Camilla with curiosity and something like hope. She had been groomed for this role before the falling out, and everyone remembered her brilliant mind for business. Mr. Pemberton cleared his throat. As you know, Mr. Wellington left specific instructions regarding the company's future. The controlling shares are held in trust. They can only be released to Camilla if she fulfills the conditions, or they will be sold to the highest bidder with the proceeds going to charity. That's blackmail, Camilla said quietly. That's your father, one of the older board members said sadly. Stubborn to the end. Catherine watched her sister's face, saw the war being waged behind her eyes. Pride against family, independence against legacy. I built something of my own, Camilla said, in London, a tech company that's worth more than this entire operation. I don't need his money or his company. But we need you, Catherine said suddenly. Not for the money, not for the business. We need you, Camilla. Mother needs you. I need you. James needs you. Can't you see? This isn't about the will or the conditions. It's about family. Camilla's carefully constructed walls began to crack. He hurt me, Catherine. He chose this company over his own daughter. And he regretted it every day after. Catherine pulled out one of the unsent letters. Listen to this one. Today I drove past the art gallery where we used to take you as a child. You would stand in front of the paintings for hours, asking questions about brushstrokes and color theory. I was so proud of your curiosity, your passion. I see now that I tried to force you into a mold you were never meant to fit. You were meant to create, to innovate, to challenge. Just like you challenged me. I'm sorry I wasn't brave enough to see it then. The boardroom was silent. Several members were openly crying. Camilla stared at the letter, her hands clenched on the table. 5 years, she whispered. We lost 5 years. We can't get them back, James said from the doorway. No one had heard him enter. But we don't have to lose any more. Their mother appeared beside him, fragile but determined. The whole family was here now, in this boardroom where so many family decisions had been made over the generations. I've been thinking, their mother said, her voice stronger than it had been in days, about your father, about his mistakes, about what he really wanted. He wasn't trying to control you, Camilla. He was trying to undo his greatest regret. He wanted his family whole again. Camilla stood abruptly, walking to the window. The city stretched out below, the empire their father had built over a lifetime. Catherine joined her, standing shoulder to shoulder. Do you remember when we were children? Catherine asked. We would stand at this same window and plan our futures. You were going to run the company and make it bigger than ever. I was going to open art galleries around the world. We were going to do it together. We were naive, Camilla said, but a small smile played at her lips. Maybe. Or maybe we just let pride get in the way. His pride. Your pride. Catherine turned to face her sister. What if we could do it differently? What if we could honor his legacy while also moving forward? Camilla raised an eyebrow. What are you suggesting? Catherine took a deep breath. Come back. Not because of the will or the conditions. Come back because this is your family's legacy too. Merge your tech company with ours. Modernize everything like you wanted to 5 years ago. Show him, wherever he is, that you were right all along. But do it here, with us. The room held its breath. Camilla looked at each face, the board members who had watched her grow up, James who had always looked up to his big sister, their mother who had aged a decade in the last week, and Catherine who had tried so hard to hold everyone together. The conditions, Camilla started. Forget the conditions, their mother interrupted. I'll contest the will if I have to. No piece of paper should dictate how my children live their lives. Mother, Camilla said, shocked. Their mother had never stood up to their father like this. I lost my husband to pride. I won't lose my daughter to it too. Their mother's voice was steel. Your father was wrong. I should have said it 5 years ago. I'm saying it now. Camilla crumbled. The tears she had been holding back for days maybe years, finally fell. Catherine caught her as she sobbed, and suddenly they were all embracing in the middle of the boardroom, a family broken but trying to heal. When they finally separated, Camilla wiped her eyes and straightened her jacket. The businesswoman was back, but softer somehow. "If I do this," she said slowly, "we do it my way. Full modernization, new markets, innovation, everything he was afraid of." The board members exchanged glances and then, one by one, began to nod. "Your father always said you had the best business mind in the family," the chairman said. "Maybe it's time we proved him right." Camilla looked around the room, then at her family. "I'll need 6 months to wrap up things in London, and I want Catherine involved. Her art gallery connections could open up new avenues we haven't explored." "And James?" their mother asked. "James will finish his master's," Camilla said firmly. "Then he can decide if this is what he wants. No more forcing anyone into predetermined roles." It wasn't a perfect solution. The anger was still there, might always be there. Trust would take time to rebuild, but it was a beginning. Over the next weeks, the house slowly came back to life. Camilla split her time between London and home, each visit lasting a little longer. She and Catherine would stay up late, planning and dreaming like they had as children. The company began to transform under their joint leadership, combining tradition with innovation in ways their father had been too afraid to try. Catherine found a letter in her father's desk, one addressed to her. She had been putting off reading it, afraid of what it might say. Finally, on a quiet evening when Camilla was in the next room on a conference call and their mother was teaching James to cook their father's favorite soup, she opened it. "My dear Catherine," it read, "you were always the heart of this family, the one who saw clearly when the rest of us were blinded by pride and ambition. I know you will blame yourself for not bringing Camilla and me together sooner. Don't. Some lessons can only be learned through loss. Take care of them all, my artist, my peacemaker. Paint the world in brighter colors than I ever dared. And remember, love is not measured in words spoken, but in the bridges we build back to each other, no matter how long it takes." She folded the letter carefully, placing it with the others. Outside, she could hear Camilla laughing at something James had said. It was a sound she hadn't heard in 5 years. 6 months later, they held a celebration at the company headquarters. Camilla had officially merged her business with theirs, creating something new and powerful. The press called it a business triumph. The family knew it was something more. As the party wound down, the siblings found themselves back at that boardroom window. The city lights twinkled below, full of possibility. "He would have been proud," James said quietly. "Eventually," Camilla agreed, "after arguing about every change for 6 months." They laughed, and it felt real, felt healing. "Do you forgive him?" Catherine asked. Camilla considered the question. "I'm trying. Every day I'm trying. Some days are better than others." "That's enough," their mother said, joining them. "That's how we move forward. One day at a time, one choice at a time." They stood together, 4 where there should have been 5, but no longer broken. The empty space would always be there, but they had learned to build around it, to create something new from the pieces left behind. In the end, their father's last gambit had worked, just not in the way he had planned. He had brought his family together not through control or conditions, but through the realization of how much they had lost and how much they still had to lose if they didn't choose differently. Love, Catherine realized, wasn't just in the dramatic gestures or the perfect reconciliations. It was in the small choices to show up, to try again, to build bridges even when the foundation was shaky. It was Camilla flying home for Sunday dinners. It was their mother learning to speak her mind. It was James finding his own path. It was all of them choosing family, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. The Wellington family empire would thrive under the sisters' joint leadership, becoming something greater than their father had ever imagined. But more importantly, the Wellington family itself would heal, slowly, imperfectly, but genuinely. And somewhere, perhaps, their father was finally at peace, knowing that his greatest failure had led to their greatest triumph, finding their way back to each other.